Friends, what just happened today could shake the very foundation of the Middle East. September 9th, 2025. Mark this date, because for the first time in history, Israel has launched a direct airstrike on Qatar. Yes, you heard that right. A so-called neutral Gulf state, a country hosting America's largest military base in the region, just got bombed by Israeli warplanes. And the question we all need to ask is, why? Why would Israel take such a reckless step? Why would Netanyahu risk dragging Trump, America, and the entire Gulf into a firestorm that nobody can contain? Stay with me, because this isn't just a military strike. This is a strategic earthquake that could change everything you thought you knew about the Middle East. This morning, reports broke across Israeli and Qatari media. 10 Israeli fighter jets crossed the skies and launched at least 12 missiles at targets inside Doha, Qatar's capital. The explosions ripped through the city, sending black smoke spiraling above a residential compound and even near a fuel station. Who was the target? Not Qatari soldiers, not infrastructure. The targets were Hamas political leaders and negotiators living in Doha under Qatari protection. Al Jazeera confirmed it. Israel had struck the very Hamas officials who were involved in ceasefire talks. An Israeli military spokesperson admitted it openly. We targeted Hamas's terrorist leadership, and Netanyahu's office doubled down, insisting, "This was our operation, no one else. We began it, we finished it, and all responsibility is on Israel." But here's the catch. Israeli media themselves are saying that's not the full story. Channel 12 in Israel reported that Donald Trump personally spoke with Israeli officials before the strike and gave a green light. Analysts are now saying American planes may have provided aerial refueling, or even shared intelligence to guide the operation. So let's call this what it is. Israel pulled the trigger, but Washington may have loaded the gun, and this is where it gets even more dangerous. Because Qatar isn't just any Gulf state. It's home to Al Udeid Air Base, the crown jewel of America's military presence in the Middle East. For years, Qatar played mediator, sitting between Hamas and Israel, between Iran and the US, always trying to play the role of negotiator. But today, that role has gone up in smoke, literally. Witnesses in Doha described panic, screaming, chaos. Imagine, you're in one of the wealthiest, supposedly safest cities in the Arab world, and suddenly, Israeli bombs are falling a few kilometers away. The Qatari government's reaction? Furious. They called the strike cowardly, a blatant violation of international law. They suspended their mediator role in the Israel-Hamas talks and demanded global condemnation. And the dominoes began to fall. The UAE quickly declared solidarity with Qatar. Soon after, nearly every Arab state in the region issued statements condemning Israel. Think about what that means. For years, Israel has carefully expanded ties with Gulf states through normalization deals, trade, and security cooperation. With one strike, Netanyahu has risked shattering that entire architecture. This is not just another Middle East skirmish, this is a first in multiple ways. It is the first time Israel has directly bombed Qatar, a U.S. ally, a neutral mediator. It marks a shift from shadow assassinations and Mossad covert ops to brazen daylight airstrikes on sovereign states. It signals that Netanyahu no longer cares about keeping regional diplomacy intact. In the past, Israel eliminated enemies through covert assassinations, poison, snipers, mysterious accidents. They never admitted responsibility. But the new Israel? It's different. Today, Israeli jets thunder across the skies of neutral countries and obliterate their targets. And Netanyahu proudly takes credit. We've seen this shift before. Iranian generals assassinated in Tehran, an airstrike destroying Iran's consulate in Damascus, ministers in Yemen bombed in their own offices. Now Doha. If Qatar can be hit, who's next? Let's step back. What's the bigger picture here? Netanyahu and Trump are executing a dangerous playbook. A playbook that says, break the region with bombs, then force Arab states to accept Israel's terms. First, destroy Hamas's leadership abroad. Second, make Arab capitals tremble. Third, push Palestinians out of Gaza, into Egypt, into Africa, anywhere but their homeland. And finally, redraw the map of the Middle East, piece by piece. Think about it. Gaza already lies in ruins. 80% of the strip is now under Israeli military control. Corridors carved through neighborhoods. Palestinians pushed south. Settlements quietly expanding in the north. At the same time, there are whispers of massive population transfer plans, forcing Gazans into Egypt, maybe even Libya or Sudan. The endgame: annex Gaza and the West Bank fully into Israel, and if Egypt resists, Netanyahu and Trump believe Cairo can either be bribed or beaten into submission. This is not conspiracy, this is policy. And Trump? Don't be fooled by his so-called peace plans. His entire Middle East policy has been a show, a circus designed to buy Israel time and cover. Every time Trump pretended to play mediator, behind the scenes he was clearing the path for Netanyahu's expansion. And if reports are true that Jared Kushner and Israeli officials coordinated this Qatar strike, then forget any illusions about diplomacy. Trump's loyalty to Israel has always been absolute. On Russia, he may waver. On NATO, he may shift. But on Israel, his record is crystal clear. Whatever Israel wants, Trump delivers. And that's what makes this moment so volatile. Because it's not just Netanyahu dropping bombs. It's Netanyahu, with Trump's blessing, with America's firepower, with zero fear of consequences. So what happens next? Qatar has suspended its mediation. That means hostage negotiations dead, ceasefire talks frozen. Arab states that were cautiously cooperating with Israel, now under pressure from their own furious populations. Tourism, trade, and investment in Doha, suddenly at risk. After all, what investor wants to build skyscrapers in a city that can be bombed overnight? And other Gulf states are now looking over their shoulders. If Israel can strike Doha, what about Kuwait? What about Abu Dhabi? What about Riyadh itself? Israel has crossed a red line, and no one knows where the next strike will fall. Let's not forget, Hamas itself played into Netanyahu's hands. After the October 7th attacks, Hamas believed hostages would be bargaining chips, but Netanyahu saw them as shields, a reason to level Gaza while still enjoying Western support. Every child, every woman Hamas took as hostage gave Netanyahu political cover. For nearly 2 years he milked that crisis, dragging out negotiations, using Hamas's miscalculations as a justification for relentless war. And now, he doesn't even care if hostages come back alive. In fact, dead hostages serve his agenda better, because they prove Israel needs to wipe Hamas off the map completely. Let's zoom out. Israel is no longer targeting just Hamas. Ministers in Yemen, generals in Iran, diplomats in Syria, entire governments on their hit list. No country feels safe. And every time someone complains, Israel shrugs. Why? Because they know America's got their back. Europe may protest, Spain may say genocide, France may recognize Palestine on paper, but Netanyahu doesn't care. Paper declarations don't stop F-16's China, too cautious. Russia, playing both sides, the Arab world, divided, fearful, and so Israel acts with impunity, reshaping the Middle East by brute force. Friends, we are entering a terrifying new era, a Middle East where diplomacy is dead, where negotiation tables are replaced by missile strikes, where one man in Tel Aviv and one man in Washington believe they can redraw maps with blood and fire. The strike on Qatar is not an isolated event, it is a warning shot, a message. No country is safe, no mediator is untouchable, Israel will strike wherever it wants, and America will smile and nod. This is a turning point, and how the world reacts, or fails to react, will decide whether the Middle East spirals into decades of chaos, or whether leaders finally draw a line. Now I want to hear from you. What do you think this strike means for the future of the Middle East? Is this the start of a larger regional war? Or is it Netanyahu and Trump overplaying their hand? Drop your thoughts in the comments, I read every single one of them. And if you found this breakdown valuable, make sure to like this video so more people see it, subscribe so you don't miss our next updates, and share it with friends who need to understand what's really happening behind the headlines. This story is far from over. Stay tuned, because the Middle East has just entered uncharted territory. Until next time, stay safe, stay informed, and take care.